better get up, stand up. If you've been done wrong, you better stand up for your rights like that Marley song. Keep yourself represented, lawfully defended. Know your human rights, don't ever surrender.
Welcome to Justice for All, the program about Jamaica's legal and justice systems and how they affect you. Domestic violence is all too prevalent in Jamaica, with many people thinking it's okay to physically abuse their spouses. But it's wrong, and it's against the law.
I decided I wanted to break off a relationship. That's when I was about 16. And it was at that point I realized the change in this person's personality and his whole demeanor, because I've never experienced that with the person before, and it was a surprise.
So what form did the abuse take?
It was physical. He started arguing because I told him I wanted a breakup, and he slapped me in the face, and that was a realization that it was going to be bad.
Many women are beaten by their husbands or common law partners at home. Yet it's estimated that only 10% of battered women report the abuse. These victims of abuse could be your sister, your work colleague, or your daughter. And men can also be victims of abuse. Today we'll look at domestic violence and justice for all, and we'll find out how you can protect yourself or those you love. Now, how does the law define domestic abuse?
Okay, domestic abuse or domestic violence occurs when there is violence, mental or physical, perpetrated on a spouse or any other person prescribed under the Domestic Violence Act. So it really speaks to violence in two forms, mental and physical abuse. You can get a protection order from the courts, and essentially what the protection order does is that it states that you are not to harass your wife, molest her, follow her from work, follow her to work, follow her home, anything like that which causes anguish. If there is a physical assault, I usually recommend to my clients that they get a doctor's reports and take it to the family court or the RM court, and that would be the basis for the grant of the protection order. There's also provision in the law, the Domestic Violence Act, for what we call an occupation order. The occupation order is where the court can make an order for the spouse who is being abused to have sole occupancy of the family home. So essentially it keeps the abuser, the person who is in the abuse, out of the family home.
All right. What kind of punishments are there for abusers?
The judge will either fine them $10,000, I think it is, 6 months in prison, or both.
If a husband forces his wife to have sex with him, is it rape?
Yes, it is. It is rape. Under the Sexual Offences Act, the law allows for marital rape. What happens is that if the wife doesn't give her consent to sexual intercourse and the husband knowingly continues to force himself on her and penetrates her and has sex with her, then it is an offense under the Sexual Offences Act.
The last straw for me was when we had a public altercation, and at that point I realized, if it's going to be like this, I definitely don't want to be a part of it anymore. So I decided to seek help, and my family came and they were there with me through it, and I heard about the crisis center, so I decided that I would make that first step in getting help.
Did you know the majority of Jamaica's domestic abuse victims are women, but men are also verbally and mentally abused by their wives and girlfriends? The non-profit organization Women Inc. opened Jamaica's first crisis center in 1985. The organization receives approximately 2,000 calls from women needing assistance each year.
Women Inc. maintains a crisis center through which counseling services are offered to women who have been or are victims of incest, rape, domestic violence, and sexual harassment at the workplace. Women Inc. also maintains the only shelter for battered women in Jamaica, and we offer emergency temporary shelter for women and children who are in domestic violence situations.
And how many women have you helped?
It's just based on the response from them after the initial intervention that we know how that we can track their progress and how many of them have successfully moved on.
Well, with Women Inc., I came in and I'd explained to them what has happened. The problem I had before was that I wasn't talking to anybody about it, and because of that it made it worse because I kept it to myself, and that was a big problem. With the counseling, it allowed me to share my experiences and allowed them to tell me their experiences as well. So I've learned that, it wasn't me alone who was going through it, but get to learn from the experiences of somebody else.
Under the Domestic Violence Act, an abused person can seek the protection of the courts against physical or mental abusers. Acts might include watching the victim's home or school, persistently calling the victim, or using abusive language. In such cases, the court will grant a restraining order. The penalty for violating a restraining order is 10,000 Jamaican dollars, or 6 months in prison. That's it for the program this week. Make sure you join us next time. And remember, justice for one, justice for all.
You better get up, stand up if you've been done wrong. You better stand up for your rights like that Marley song. Keep yourself represented, lawfully defended.